Awesome. I think we're good to go.
Good, good, okay.
Awesome. Well, hello everyone again. It's really great to see you. Hope you're enjoying this not so sunny summer day, but we're very excited to be back. And just to go over a few things, wanted to say that because I am on Zoom, I do have a little picture of you guys in my lower left-hand corner that I can see. But if you have questions or comments or things like that, just please feel free, speak up and yell out so that I can see you. And then what I will do is I will also take a little bit of a pause between each slide just to show, just in case there are any questions. So, welcome everyone to our next session, which is a continuation of the previous session on working with LLMs. So remember that an LLM is a large language model. And these are the big players out there today, like ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, or Grok. And so the goal of this session is to essentially equip you with some more sophisticated methodologies around using Claude. And so what I'll be doing is I will be going back and forth between this slide deck and then the Claude client, the Claude GUI itself. If you do have Claude either as an app or a ChatGPT as an app, feel free to use those. And what I will say is while I've been talking a lot about using Claude, I'm biased, I really like Claude. These methodologies scale to any large language model you're talking about. Whether you're using Google's Gemini, whether you're using Grok, whether you're using ChatGPT, what we're covering in these couple sessions is just how to get acquainted with them and how to use them properly. So before that, wanted to kick off with some big news that over the last month, I've actually released a new blog on the AI race between the US and China. I've been offered actually to brief several US senators on this and thought I would share my findings with you. So if you're interested in all of the discussion points around chips and those types of things, and things we'll cover later in the session, feel free to check out the blog. There might be some interesting things there that aren't covered in these sessions, but what that you're now equipped to understand. So basically where I'm going to start is where we left off last time. So last time we were using Anthropic and Claude to talk back and forth. We talked the idea about giving context, being able to make sure that it is understanding what you're doing. Because remember, the AI, Claude, Anthropic, ChatGPT, is like a friend that will come to you middle of the conversation. So if you don't give it the proper context, you're going to get very shallow answers, and you're going to get what are called hallucinations, meaning that it's going to make things up. So the first couple slides are going just to be a refresher. So remember, when we're dealing with Claude or any LLM, and I'm showing my biases right now because I am a Claude fanboy, you want to be clear about your purpose. So you want to make sure that you give the AI enough context to answer the question without giving it a book, because if you get too much information, it will get confused. You want to explain how you want to use that answer. And remember, this is not like searching on Google. Don't put in one word, give it the goal. What are you trying to get out of this? So before, we might say, how do I use Facebook? Well, that's a very loaded question. Just think about if you were to ask this to your grandchildren. One might have the answer, why are you using Facebook? That is not the cool thing to do nowadays. Another one will be about, oh, we can use Facebook to see photos of other people, or we can use Facebook to see what's going on in my community. The AI can adapt to all of that information. So instead of just giving it a general query like, how do I use Facebook? We can give it more context and say, I want to use Facebook to see my grandchildren, keep up with community events, and I'm new to social media. Give me a list. Give me step-by-step instructions. And remember, we can have the response be personalized to your need. If it's too technical, you could always say, come back and give me the response in a way a fifth grader would understand, for example. And so I'm not going to go dive deep into these examples. These are things that I covered last session, but I'm just going into just a generalized review. So building off this context idea, what we want to do is we want to be able to tell the AI how detailed you want your answer to be. You can ask for simplification for complex topics when needed. You can request additional detail, and you can mention different time constraints. So for example, if you want to understand, I don't know, quantum mechanics, what we can do is we can go ahead and let me go and pull up Claude. And we can say, explain quantum mechanics to me. And so what we have here is we have a long paragraph of, very technical things. And it's just populating, it's just populating, just populating. So what I'm going to say is that this is good, but I used a not great query. I didn't tell it what I wanted it to do. So I would like a short 2-minute introduction that I could understand at the high school level on what quantum mechanics is. Please give this as key bullets with short descriptions, and be sure to tell me how this relates to everyday life. And so what we're doing here is we're taking a very abstract concept that is like quantum mechanics or law or something like that. And we're saying, you gave me some information, but it was too much. It was too much for me to understand. So let's reframe this with a new approach. And so now the LLM has switched roles. It's gone from this chatty little machine to now giving you a succinct summary based on your goals to understand this very complex topic. So we've moved from being this very technical speak to essentially to say, what is it? Here are kind of the fundamental things you should know about this and why it matters. And so what we're able to start using Anthropic and Claude and ChatGPT and these large language models is that we can give it very dense information. We can give it very complicated information, but we can personalize that information to how we learn. And so if you want to learn something new, what we can do is we can start using approaches like this to bring it down to the level that is important to me and create that baseline foundation of understanding. And what's important is that we use this example as quantum mechanics, which I picked because it's a very complicated topic, but this works for anything. It works for understanding a legal document, and I'll show you how to deal with legal documents in a minute later on the session. But what we're able to do is, with the right set of prompting, is create AI to help us become superpowers, help us learn faster, more efficiently, retain more information. I'm going to take a pause there. Any questions on what I just showed? No? Cool. We're going to start having some fun now. So we'll skip that because we did that last time. What I want us to do is now extend this idea of a large language model. What a large language model does is it's trained on the internet, meaning It's trained on every single piece of data that's on the internet we talked about before, from news articles to Wikipedia to Facebook posts. And it has a lot. Just like after you went through college or your workforce or your life and now you're enjoying retirement, you have a lot of experiences, a wealth of experiences. But you have to tap into certain sets of knowledge bases. Claude is like that. So when we started last time, we said, well, Claude could have different roles. We used an example of it having it talk to you like a pirate. We use an example of bringing it down to a 5th grade understanding. So Claude and ChatGPT and these large language models have a very, very broad knowledge base. But it can also have a very deep knowledge base that can help with hallucinations. So if I remember last time, someone asked, okay, how do I mitigate against these hallucinations? How do I ensure that the information is factual? The first step is giving the AI a role. So it's constraining that knowledge base. So let's take an example. Okay. You are my helpful assistant. You are an expert in municipal government on Cape Cod. You have over 30 years of experience and have dealt with issues with zoning, building houses, and local politics. In this conversation, I want you, oh, forgot the N, to use this knowledge throughout its entirety. Do not bring in external information that is not relevant to Cape Cod. And so what we're doing is we're giving it a specific role. So if you wanted to look at a legal document, a health report, some bills, you could have it act as a financial analyst. What this is doing is it's creating a link to that information. So you can think of Claude's knowledge base like a spider web. So it has these beautiful shapes and it has this kind of high level information. But if you pull on one thread and you start going, you might find a nice little shape that has some information associated with it. And that's what we're doing. So we're tapping into Claude's specific knowledge base. And so what we can do, oh, 1 second, is we can have that knowledge base be emphasized throughout the entire conversation. Okay, question.
I'm curious because I've been using it a lot since this class.
Mm-hmm.
And does it remember who you are, that you live in Eastham and that you're 75 years old? Or do you have to tell it that every time you go in on a conversation?
So that's a really good question. And the answer can be twofold. So at its heart, when we go from one conversation to another, it doesn't remember aspects of information. So it's like starting over with a new friend each time. So it doesn't have that cross information. However, what you can do at the very end, if you say that, oh, you want to start a new conversation, you can actually have it produce a profile on you based on all of the conversations you've had. And you'll use that as your initial entrance into the conversation. So you might say, hey, Claude, we've had some conversations in the past. Here's some summaries of some information around what works for me, what doesn't work for me. Here's my background, whatever you're comfortable doing with that. And what I'll do is when I occasionally throughout a conversation, if it's something that I want to remember, I'll say, write these instructions to a future Claude or a future chat, and then I'll bring that back into my new chat. So that's a limitation where within itself, it doesn't remember because of how these models operate, but you can actually produce results within a conversation that can help it remember later on in a different conversation. Does that make sense?
Good.
So if you are, say if you have a really good conversation going on with Claude and it's finally like understanding you, what you like, and this will actually, I think this will be a fun another session we can talk about this, is that we can start creating series of prompts that you kind of always have that you can just copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste so that knowledge is retained. And that's a very, very helpful way of getting these LLMs to be personalized to you. But great question. Any other questions? Yes.
I notice that you're being more careful in your correcting of your spelling than I sometimes am when I'm Googling information, and it corrects my spelling. How important is this with Claude?
It's not. No, it's not. I just I'm a nitpicker for spelling and things like this, especially when I'm presenting. So it's very, so what happens is the way the math works under the hood is it doesn't look at the individual letters. The way that the large language model decomposes it decomposes each word into series of overlapping chunks or overlapping tokens. And so while there might be a spelling issue, it's okay because not only does it look into that group of letters or subtokens, it will also look at the larger context of the paragraph or the sentence, and it will infer. So as long as it's not something very specific, like, I don't know, you're looking at a specific, I don't know, maybe Medicare code and you have it flipped or something like that, that it might instigate some other knowledge that it has. Generally, most misspellings are fine.
Thank you.
Yes, another question.
I wasn't here last week and I don't want to take time from this group, but could you tell me quickly how I access Claude?
Yes, all you have to do is go to claude.ai.com.
Thank you.
And then if you have an iPhone or an Android, you can also download the Claude app.
Okay, thank you.
And so just, I'm going to reiterate because one of the, just for those who haven't been, because this is a really good thing to highlight, and I'll talk a little bit at the end on this. The reason why I like Claude is that it's more secure with my personal information. So anything that I put in here in the GUI in the chats, that data doesn't get fed back to retrain a better version of Claude. So they're not collecting your data to improve it. ChatGPT does. So ChatGPT, anything you put in there, you can just assume that anyone in ChatGPT has access to it and those types of things. Claude is ethical, and they don't share your private information between kind of units to improve the model. So that's one of the reasons why I like Claude. But I will say that each model will have its pluses and minuses. And so Claude's very good at coding and very good. If you have deep logical reasoning or you want some real-time search, ChatGPT might be good. And at the end of all of these sessions, we'll talk about all of the pluses and minuses of them. That's just one thing. All of this that I'm telling you, it works for any large language model, whether you're using Gemini, whether you're using Claude, whether you're using ChatGPT, whether you're using Grok. But I just choose to use Claude because of its ethics. Okay, so if we have this, what this is going to do is it's going to pull out all of the information that it has. Now, it might not be the best information because it's not updating in real time yet, but this is putting a condition on the sets of information that it has. So I'm going to start, and I'm not going to give it any other prompt along with this. Okay. So here I am. It's now had that this new system. So this is acting, saying, I'm going to constrain my information. You can tell it to go out and find other things if you want, but we're going to just use this example of saying, let's focus just on this aspect. And this is very useful. I will say we're taking a kind of a personalized example from Cape Cod municipal government. If you want it to analyze, you're thinking about maybe doing some stock trading or something like that. This is one of those things where I would say you definitely want to have it set up as an expert. So you use that knowledge as a financial analyst or something like that. Okay, so what municipal issue can I help you today? Whether it's navigating town's bylaws, those types of things. I said, okay, I'm thinking about buying a house to do a short-term rental. Okay, I know water quality is an issue. I'm thinking of purchasing this property in Eastham, Orleans, or Chatham. Can you give me, so using your knowledge, can you recommend which might be best associated for me, and what are the risks? Please describe, and also give me a table that I can understand the risks. Oh, so I guess Eastham it wins. So you guys have a little bit less of regulatory. So you can see here it's actually using its knowledge because it's been trained on public record, all those types of things. And so here now you have an answer to your question. So if I'm thinking about buying a property on the Cape and using it as short-term rental, okay, now we can see what the risks are. So you have a breakdown of Eastham, Orleans, Chatham, the current regulations, the revenue potential, and a recommendation. Now, what I'm going to say is for recommendations, just use it as a recommendation. Don't use it to make a decision, but this will help inform your decision making. And this works for any type of system. Any questions on this? Okay, so let's go deeper. Great.
Russ,
Yes. Yep.
do you find it to be correct?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So that's a very good question. So what I will say is when going into these types of more detailed analysis, let's say, I'm a little skeptical. I want to use this as a first pass for research. What I mean is that I don't want to trust this too much because right now it's just using whatever its data it's trained on. So this could be accurate, but it could be accurate for 2024 and not 2025. So maybe in 2025, there wasn't a bylaw that Eastham approved. It doesn't have that in its knowledge base. So I'll often start with this type of preliminary research to get an understanding of how should I proceed. But this brings up a good question. Within the last couple months, these large language models have enacted new features. A feature is a new tool or a new thing that it can do. What the big limitation was historically before 2025 was that it didn't have access to the real-time internet. That's changed. So what we can do is you will see if you are on certain pro versions, these typically are the paid versions. You don't necessarily have it on the free versions. And if you do, it's only a certain number of queries. What you'll see down below is this research button. So I can say, Claude, this is great. Thank you. Can you please do a deeper dive into this using current information? Okay. What I'm going to do is then I'm going to click this research button. And typically the research button will only be available on the desktop version. You might have it on your app. But what this research does is says, okay, I'm going to actually use my skill set as an AI that can read and understand things very well, right? Remember what I said, it's very good at learning really quickly, not retaining. So it's going to go out to the internet and it's going to search all of these towns to further improve my confidence. And before it does that search, it's going to ask you some questions to target more specific areas of information. So, I don't know, I'm interested in peak summer seasons. I want to make that money. Even though we know that's probably not the case nowadays on Cape. Okay, what is your approximate budget? I'm not sure. I'm willing to be risky and put down, I don't know, $800,000. And then we could say, do you have any specific preferences? I don't know. I don't know these towns very well, but I want to optimize my return on investment. So let's decompose what's going on. So we've taken a question to say, using your information, your general information, give me some ideas of what risks are. Now, I'm a skeptic. I'm not sure if I'm going to believe this fully because you're not going out and getting real-time information from me. I'm going to say, let's use this and let's click this research button. And I'm going to give that research a task. Okay, so I'm giving it a task. I'm saying, go out and do something for me. So I want you to go out and do a deeper dive into this previous analysis you did. And Claude comes back and says, well, that's a very broad ask. You've been bad. You didn't give me enough context. Now I'm going to give it a specific task. My task is I want to make money. Okay? And I'm going to answer these questions. And what it's going to do is it's actually going to set up a whole research system where it goes out and scours the internet to find relevant sources that will be cited. So this greatly mitigates the false information. And you can say, well, research takes time, because what it's doing is it's creating a research plan. And then it's going to, in a way, come up with its own Google queries. And it's going to essentially go out and go on the internet and search for that. And if we're doing, say, with ChatGPT, we could do the same thing. We could create a new chat and say, I don't know, can you tell me about short-term rental regulations in Eastham? I can click that research button, and you can select different tools to research. I'm going to do web search. And again, it's giving you this more questions. Taxes and zoning. I'm a potential buyer. And yes. So this research capability is not just inherent to Claude. It is also a capability within ChatGPT. And so what it's going is going out to the internet It takes a while because it's actually going out and reading. On average, it probably takes about 15 minutes. And so at the end of the day, what you'll see is you'll start seeing a research plan on what it's thinking about, how it's going to go. And you'll eventually start seeing some sources pop up to say, oh, I've looked at Zillow, I've looked at Airbnb, I've looked at the town of East Ham's website. And so all of these kind of research tools can help improve confidence in the result if you are suspect. And you can see its thinking. You can see that this guy is still formulating its research plan. And so probably in about 10 to 15 minutes after it's scoured the internet, it'll come back and create a nice little report for you. And you can see here, ChatGPT is a little faster. It's going out and it's piecing together taxes and zoning laws. It's actually searching on the internet. And by its search on the internet, it's automating Google. So it's going out and asking questions, and it's going to compile a list of sources that it's looking at for that confidence. So we see it's found one source, and the first source it went to was the East Ham website to essentially ensure we are getting that proper information. And it says, oh, okay, well then I'm going to go to We Need a Vacation. So it's going to be reading all of these websites, and because it's not generating this information on its own, because it's reading and understanding, it's going to have a stronger confidence in the information that it returns. So I covered a lot right now. Questions on this? And you can use this deep research to do anything. You can ask it to find the most popular cat names, for example, or things like that. And so what we're doing here is we're starting with a role. We're giving it a task. We're saying, I don't trust you enough in your knowledge base. Let's go out and do some research. Any questions? I'll let you guys think about it. I know this is new. So over here, what it's doing, these are the websites it's going to. So you can go here. It's going to the state. Oh, why? So the state's probably down right now. Go ahead and make this a little smaller. We can go to eCode 360. So it's going to each of these sites trying to find backdoors. Goes to We Need a Vacation. And similarly, Claude is doing the same thing. It's creating a research plan. Claude is a little bit more thorough, in my opinion, and it takes a little bit more time. But here we go.
Russ?
Yes.
Would you use this if you were going to try to either sell your house or you're interested in another piece of property?
100%. 100%, and I would use you.
Other?
What's that?
Would you prefer one over the other?
I frankly, that's a really good question. I found ChatGPT's deep research to be a little bit better than Claude's. That being said, I think you could use both and still have a very good result. Now, what I'm going to say is that in order for it to return information, it has to be indexable, meaning searchable on Google. So if you're looking for like a deed record or something like that, it's probably not going to find it because it's not easily found through Google. That's where my AI, my company comes into play. We use AI to kind of automate all of that type of stuff. But you might be able to find historic liens on this if it was mentioned in a town record. You might be able to understand what are pricing trends in my neighborhood. So 100%, I would definitely use deep research if you were trying to either buy or sell your property. Any other questions?
Could I use it, for example, to find a company that would give me a homeowner's insurance, even though I'm in a susceptible area?
Yeah, let's actually kick that off. So let's kick off. We have another chat. Okay, so I'm looking, and we're gonna automatically kick off this research. We're gonna say, I don't want to necessarily use your knowledge base, But I don't know. I live in Eastham, by the water. I'm looking for homeowner insurance that will accept me. Okay. So I don't know too much about this. The nice thing about deep research is that oftentimes it will ask you deeper questions. So yes, yes, it's on Cape Cod. No, I haven't been declined, but I'm concerned because I'm in a wetland zone. I like options on both. And so what Claude's going to do, it's going to go out and be your assistant. It's going to go out and try to find all these sources. So instead of you spending 2 hours, oops, I had a little network hiccup. Instead of spending 2 hours to do this on your own time, Claude will be your assistant. It'll go out and it'll help you find these things. So if we go back to Eastham short-term rentals for ChatGPT, we can see now we have 27 sources it's looking for. And then you can see what it's doing. So it's going through, it's looking at each of the sets of information. So the first thing it went to is Eastham's website to look at the taxes. And it goes back and cites where it gets that information. And so it's going through and it's going through each of these sites, putting these pieces together. And at the end of the day, what you're going to see is a detailed report on whether I should do this in Eastham. Just like here, you'll eventually see what's going on. And then if I go back to my chats, let's go ahead to this guy. He's still chatting and thinking of his research plan. And here you go. Here's where all of this is essentially Claude's research plan. So it's looking at short-term rentals and locations, and it's using 63 sources. And you can see all of the sources that it's looking at. You can go through all of the websites that would have taken you way too long to do. It's going through, and these are the tasks it's doing. So it's breaking down your goal and says, I'm going to look at short-term rental regulations. I'm going to see what the Cape Cod Commission is saying. I'm going to see my potential income. I'm going to see what my property tax rates are. And more importantly, am I going to have to put a new IA system or a new septic system in? So hours of research in about 15 minutes. That's the power of this. And you can use it for anything. You can use it for anything. The only thing that I would say is make sure you are clear with your instructions. Cool. Any other questions?
Russ,
Yes.
do we have, privacy? Do we have anonymity, with ChatGPT?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Thanks.
Nope, that's why I like Claude. You can make the assumption that anything you put into ChatGPT is going to be used to further its training. That being said, there are certain tasks that are probably like logical reasoning tasks, those types of things. Problem solving, ChatGPT is good for. I wouldn't put personal information into ChatGPT. I'm not going to lie. I put in personal information to Claude. I'm open about that. I view that Pandora's box has already been opened, so why don't I use it to actually help me? But Claude has the safeguards. It's not going to use my information against me. So that's why I like it.
Thank you.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to extend out this idea of an expert. Okay. So remember, we use the expert to say, I want to have this set of knowledge. But what we're going to do is we're going to set up something called an adversary. It's going to get a series of experts to argue with each other. And I'm going to give it a very interesting task, okay? I'm going to say, I want you to assemble a team of 5 of the best website designers who have ever lived. These have to be real people, okay? This team is tasked with helping me design a website for a seminar that I'm leading on AI in Eastham. We have some great audience members. They are engaged. My name is Russ Wilcox. I'm an expert in AI, and I'm running this session. I want the website to have key information my attendees can always reference for help on AI, okay? I'd like the team to argue back and forth 7 times deeply to help me build this website. How should it be designed? It should be accessible, welcoming, and informational. Okay? This is going to be cool. So what it's going to do is it's going to set up a series of experts to argue. So what it's doing is here are the roles that it's going to be assuming. It's going to be assuming roles. So you could give it to be, oh, I want to be George Bush and argue with Barack Obama and argue with, I don't know, Abe Lincoln, for example. And what it'll do is it'll assemble what's called your dream team, and they're going to argue with each other. Now, this is very important. You ask about to trust AI. This is one of the strongest methodologies you can use to get that trustworthiness out, because each of these experts are going to argue back and forth and try to find their logical fallacies. So you can see the system is arguing with itself back and forth to give you the best answer. This is one of the most powerful things you can do to improve the outputs of your systems. Give it not just one expert, but a team of experts. And so what it's doing is it's looking at all of the different logical fallacies, all of the different impacts. And at the end of the day, it gives recommendations. So it says it has to be clean and accessible. It has to be intuitive. Here's the design. Okay, now this is going to be cool. Great. Now can you please build this website using well-stylized HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this is why AI is not going to take over, in my opinion. It's going to be an expert, because you have to know what you're going to ask it to do. So what I'm going to say is use this feedback to make a website. And so on the right-hand side, because the experts have argued, what it's doing is going to go and create an entire website just based on the context that I gave. So you can think of this as having your own programmer. It's going through on the right-hand side. It is generating this code. And at the end of the day, it's not going to be accessible online because there's other things we'll have to do, but you will have a design of the website. So let's give this a second and let it populate. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get some feedback from you guys on how we want to have this designed. Any questions on this? This is one of the most amazing things about large language models is the ability to argue with themselves. So another good example is, I'm sure we've all had our more moments of being keyboard warriors on Facebook. We see that Facebook comment that just, I don't know, just sticks that knife in your gut. You have to respond, but you say, oh, I don't know whether it's good or not. Set up a team of experts, argue back and forth, and then have it write your post. You give it the context you want to talk about, it will argue. And here we go. Here's the website. I don't know about you. This is nice. It's kind of boring. It's not interesting. We can say, assemble our team of experts again. This is a good start, but it's very bland. How is this welcoming? How does this show the character of Eastham? This is very basic. I want the experts to argue 9 more times on how to improve this, improve the styling, and the information, and the overall website. And what it's going to do is those experts are going to look at this website it just generated, and it's going to argue again.
Russ,
Yes.
you didn't use the research tool on this particular question, correct?
Nope. Nope. So this is another set of tools you can use to help improve confidence in your results. So you can first just give it one expert if you want a little bit of information and learn more. If you want real-time information, you can go out and use the research tool. But if you have a very important task you want to get done, you want it to be perfect, you want it to highlight, you know, some form of excellence, what I do is I'll always set up these rounds of experts. In fact, not gonna lie, I've had this. I recently organized a talk a few weeks ago. I was bad. I was busy with work. I didn't get a chance to write it. I knew what I had to write down. I knew what I wanted to talk about. So what I did was I used AI to get all of my previous talks. I gave it the context of my talk that I wanted to give. And then I set up a team of experts to argue back and forth to write my talk for me. And it was one of the best talks I've ever given. And it was all AI written. So what it's done is it gone back and it updated its vision of what this looks like. And we say, great, please use this to update the website. And so what it's doing now, it's taking that context, it's taking that information, and it's going back to that website that was created on the right-hand side, and it's going to create a better, more improved version. This can work with anything. We can put in long documents and find issues within contracts and policies. We'll talk about that before. But this is the power of the large language model. It's finding the right way to get it to access all of the information you need. And to review, again, one last time, it's first on the context you provide. Then you can give it a role. If you want real-time information, You can have it go search, and then you can also have it argue with itself. So while this is doing this, let's go back to our short-term rental report. And here is the report from ChatGPT. So here's everything you need to know about short-term rentals in Eastham. You have these little buttons on where it came from, so it cites it. It talks about the community impact fee you guys have. The zoning laws, I don't know about you, I don't like reading zoning laws, and it's able to identify the allowed use cases. The cap, so you guys approved a cap on short-term rentals last town meeting. And this is better than some interns that I've hired. And you have a full report right here with citations. Astounding. That same technology is being used to generate this new website, which should be done in a second. This is why large language models are so powerful. They are not intended to be used as a Google query. They're intended to be very good at specific tasks that need to be done. Those tasks have to be well defined. They have to be understandable. It has to have the right context. But once you do that, you are going to open up an entirely new way of thinking. So on that note, what we're going to do is we're going to put in a few more minutes to let this run. And we have about 5 minutes left. I'll open up the floor to any questions you guys might have while this is running. Yes.
Is Claude a subscription or free?
So Claude does have a free tier. So if you use Claude, you are going to get typically the free version will be the poorer models. So the older models, they're not as sophisticated. You can have access to Claude Pro. I think it's $20 a month. ChatGPT is the same thing. So I pay because it gives me all the best models and stuff like that. In fact, I paid for what's called the Pro Max version, which is $200 a month, because I use it for everything. But for your use cases, what I would say is before you even start paying, just get used to playing around with this for free and start figuring out, maybe you like ChatGPT better, maybe you like Claude better. And then once you dive in, you'll be able to do a lot more with the paid version. So here you can select different models, and we'll talk about what models are doing with what. But end of the story is you can get the free version, or you can pay $20 a month and get the better version. And I'm hoping, so what this is taking a little bit to generate the code. But yes, I see a hand raised. Yes.
Just out of curiosity, knowing there's different models like ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and Claude, do you think it's better to get individual subscriptions for them or use something like Perplexity where you can choose their different models?
It really depends on your use case. So I have very specific use cases, not going to lie. I spend $500 a month between Claude and ChatGPT for their Pro Max versions, because I have dedicated tasks. So Claude codes for me. ChatGPT will do my research. I would be lost without them. So it really depends on your use case. Perplexity is an intermediary. You can use that. But at the end of the day, it's really up to your use cases. So I'm going to take a quick step back and pause. So you saw the evolution from a boring website to now we have animations. And let me go ahead. I'm going to download this and actually make it full screen. Here's our website where silicon meets sand. So discover the future of AI where the Atlantic meets the shore. It came up with all of this text. So we can go down. Looks like, oh, it even came up with a little beacon chat bot. It's not functional, but to ask questions. here's Russ Wilcox. So again, it didn't have information on me. It has actually some knowledge of me, which is a little creepy. But okay. So it fills in the information. It will generate the text for you. It will essentially build this entire thing. And so here's exactly what our AI toolkit is. So we're navigating how we use AI. We've talked a little about ethics. We're playing around with our first model. And we have what's suggesting our captain's logs, our tides and charts, our bonus materials. Okay, I guess I'm going to want to build this website so you guys have access to this now. This is too cool. Our learning constellation, it put these little things in here. All of the animations. AI did this in what? 5 minutes? Visit Eastham. This has better design than a lot of websites I've built. And what do you know? It's mobile friendly. It fits on your phone. It's all responsive. And this is the future. I'll open this up for a few more minutes because I know we started late. If there's any questions.
Can you make a tacit assumption that in the development of this website, that only public domain information was being used and
Yes.
presented?
Yeah, so these large language models are primarily driven on public information. Yes.
I gotta leave, but thank you.
Could you describe again, how to set up prompts that Claude will hold for you in your personal information?
Yeah, so what I can do is let's go ahead. Let me share my screen. And that I think what I'll do is I'll create a dedicated session on this because this is very important. Let me go here. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, Claude, thanks. This is great. I think you were able to understand more information about me. Using all that we talked about, create a detailed profile on me. So this is not going to be very good because it doesn't have a lot of context, but I'm just saying, here we go. It's pulling a lot from the information that I gave it.
And so when you say that, Claude understands to maintain that information.
Well, so what's going to do is that this creates a little profile on you that I can always copy and paste. Is I want you to remember I want you to use the profile below in this conversation. We had some great chats in the past, but I needed to start a new conversation.
Oh, thank you.
I'll paste that on that profile. And then here we go. We started again. And the more you build up over this, I kid you not, I've been doing this with some of my chats for the past 6 months. And it knows me. It's a little creepy, but boy, is it super helpful to me. So that's how we can start building these things up. And I will have a dedicated session on that later on. So what I'm going to do, I see one more hand, I'll answer in 1 second. So just as heads up for the next session, what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a little bit of a break, I think. No, actually, I take that back. We'll have one more on prompting. And then in August will be a very good one on AI, policy in China, and chips, all of these kind of other technology things we have to worry about. Okay, I saw in the black shirt with I think the denim overcoat or overshirt. What's up?
Everything that you worked on today, how is that set it's your responsibility to save it and put it in a file?
No, it's all on the website. I can go back, and so on the right-hand side, what you'll see is you'll be able to click over here and you can see all of my different chats that I've had. So you can ask them, so I can go back between this chat, I can go back to here, I can go back through anything. So if it's something important and you wanted to save as reference, you can copy and paste that into your own file, but Claude will retain that information so you can go back and find it, chat with it again.
Well, I didn't retain it, so what was it, guys, forwarded? Thank you.
Fantastic.
Awesome, I have time for one more question, yes.
Yes, I was not able to get here at the beginning. Is there any way to hear the lecture from the beginning?
So I think, yes, so I think these will be posted on YouTube, I believe, in the Eastham website. This is being recorded. And we'll also have, if this is your first time, I can make sure that you get all of the other slides as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I have another meeting I have to hop to, but I had so much fun. I look forward to this every month. And next month, I will be back on the Cape with you in person. Bring your laptops next time. Bring your laptops or iPads. We're going to have little stations set up. And we're going to have some fun with some large language models.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Have a great month. I'll talk